Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric role-playing live streams for your delight and delectation. And we're here tonight with the latest episode of Telling Tales, the dark fantasy system from Fria Ligan, and a very good one it is as well. Will our session be as good as the system? Only time will tell. First off, before we start, I'll throw the usual promo stuff at the wall. We've got a bunch of links down below. Some of them are to our social media, which is usually, but not always. Did I say we were playing Telling Tales? Maybe I did. We're playing Symbaroum. Sorry, our private chat is... I did. We're not playing Telling Tales. That would be silly. That would be the role-playing game of some people who decided to set up a Twitch playing role-playing games, which would be very meta. But maybe we should play that. We have promo stuff. Links down below. Social media, Patreon if you want to support us. YouTube where all our VODs are. If you haven't watched kind of... up to this point, go back and watch everything. Watch the entire story. It's all there. We've also got another series that goes out on Tuesday evenings, same time, 8 o'clock GMT. We play Vampire 5th Edition. It's going really well. We've also got some other stuff coming up. We have a third series, Call of Cthulhu, that will be starting at some point in the indeterminate future. And we also have a series of monthly one-offs of different systems that are starting on February, Saturday the 6th. That was a really weird way to say that date. 6th of February, a Saturday. A little behind the scenes thing here. I have like the dashboard of StreamYard, which is what we use to stream here. And that means I can see everyone's cams at the bottom. And that means whenever I fuck up, folks, I just see the faces of all my friends laughing at me as I do so silently, like they would in a nightmare. So speaking of nightmares, I think we can move forward and kind of try and start this session off. So let's bring on our first player. Actually, before we do that, let's bring on John. John's the stream manager. John, this is going terribly wrong, John.
I almost forgot about me.
It's going awful in every single way. So John's the stream manager. John throws pictures up on screen, shuffles cams around, mods chat, and all that good stuff. How are you tonight, John?
I'm doing great. I'm glad
really you're doing great.
You starting to see things from my perspective. It's really great when you get to watch the players finish their spaghetti last minute while we're waiting for the intro to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, John. John will be working way behind the scenes. And let's bring on the first player. Let's bring on Sam. Sam plays Ascarai. Ascarai is a changeling and a ranger and things that rhyme in between those. How are you doing tonight, Sam? And what did Ascarai get up to last time?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Looking forward to the session. I think not at all sure how it's going to go. But, we started off last session having just met this kind of goblin. He's more of like a war chief guy, but he paints himself as a king, Gabba, Big Paw. And he has a prisoner of the Ordo Magica. And he gave us some more information about what he knew had happened, but since we thought that our main mission here was to recover these Ordo Magica people, we needed to get some way to talk to this guy or hopefully get him released. So we basically haggled with this guy to give him some weapons that were back at the outpost where we arrived, and in exchange to meet with this guy, which didn't turn out to be the best deal we ever made, but
I don't know. I'm sure worse ones can be imagined.
Yeah,
there was that one a few sessions ago where you spent an inordinate amount of money for basic supplies, only to find free versions of those supplies at the outpost where you arrived. So
that is true.
It's a long-standing tradition at this point.
We're not great business people.
No,
better adventurers.
Better adventure. Yeah. So let's bring on the next player. Let's bring on Elle. Elle plays Ephanea, she of the wild red hair and wilder big black evil sword. Elle, you are on mute, I'm afraid.
Oh, heck. I was saying, what you want about? It's totally not cursed. It's just big boned.
It's just a sword, and it occasionally sets people on fire, and what could possibly be wrong with that?
Exactly. But yes, so where were we up to? So we made a deal with the goblins to get them weapons, etc. in return for being able to speak to said Ordo Magica prisoner, as Sam said. And so they also mentioned a cursed hut. So obviously, our party, with all of the knowledge in the world, was like, you know what, cursed hut, let's check this shit out. So we went in there and we found some like supplies, like grappling hooks and ropes, etc., etc. And Ephenea, in her infinite slight paranoia now of all things dark and mysterious, was like, wait, no, what if this is cursed? And stopped everyone from taking it. And so, as a kind of test, we decided to leave it outside of the door. If it was still there tomorrow morning, we'd deem it safe to use. But Ephenea felt very uncomfortable about the whole thing because there was a cold sort of presence in the air, and there was this black decaying vegetation that was in said shed. So basically, she just assumed it was cursed. And with that, they head off back to the outpost. I can't remember. Had we left? Oh no, they were traveling with us.
No, you had the two survivors of the Ordo Magica outpost were with you, and you headed back to said outpost, spent the night there, and gathered weapons for the trip back in the morning to trade with the goblins. And then, when you arrived back at that spot, well, you know what? I assigned recaps in a really weird way before this started. So, Ascarai, tell us what happened in the dealings with the goblins.
Well, we arrived back with all this kind of. We were all carrying some kind of weapon or armor, hoping to exchange it for first the ability to talk to this guy and perhaps the armor for him to be released. And so we kind of put this all down, put the weapons down for them to inspect, and then shortly afterwards realized that we were stood on a trapdoor, about to get dropped into some horrific pit of horrible monsters if our offerings were not satisfactory, or perhaps even if they were, we really didn't know. But luckily, we gave just enough that we weren't all just.
Yeah, I think that we'd coined the term to rancor as a verb for this.
Yeah. Exactly. We didn't get rancored.
You didn't get rancored. It was all right. Which means you got to talk to the member of the Ordo Magica who was still at the keep in the room with the Ordo Magica circle. And let's bring on our third player. Mike plays Anton, our holy man and sometimes healer. And he'll tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so it became very obvious immediately that this chap was very much mind cut, to use the translation from the Goblin language. He was in a pretty bad way. There were some gnarly-looking grey corpses in the corner of this small room. He'd been drawing some pretty disturbing images of Prios, but with added bits on the walls, and the floor was like this kind of weird, mysterious circle as well. Upon talking to him, he told us that he'd been touched by Prios, marked by Prios, and that turned out to be like a massive sort of wound, like a festering animal bite on his neck. I think it was on the back of his neck. Upon a bit more conversation with him, we didn't really get too much useful information out of him, but he did give us a book of his sort of escapades with the Ordo Magica, sort of leading up to when everything bad happened. So we got that from him, and then he got a bit cross with Ascarai, some bad stuff went down there.
It did, and one of the reasons he got kind of cross with Ascarai is because Ascarai had some kind of odd spiritual intervention. Why don't you run through that for us, Sam?
Yeah, Ascarai went to kind of look at this guy's weird drawings of Prios with 8 legs, and got kind of telepathically, I don't know, some kind of creature began speaking and into Askarai's mind, really. Exactly like Elle is demonstrating. And basically it said that she was kind of a spider, the daughter of a Roke, who we later learned through FNA is a kind of spider god worshipped by the barbarians. Mother to the Spider King, which we don't really know what it means, but it seems to be some kind of demigod who is trying to return to a physical form, I think, in some way. But
I think what she made out was that she had only just recently returned to a physical form.
Yeah, and is being somehow thwarted from fully, I don't know, fully kind of progressing with that.
Yeah.
And asked for help from us, and mentioned that she was in or near the sunken hole.
Yeah, the sinkhole that you've heard tell of from various places, including the goblins said they kind of came from there and were attacked by some pale monstrosity there. Yeah, and I think she also mentioned that the thing she wanted your help with is to help her secure something called the Vile Water.
Indeed.
So that sounds fun. And then having had this vision, had the interaction with the maddened Ordo Magica administrator called Tonsil, you all headed out and away from the goblins, and then had a bit of a tete-a-tete about what to go next, what this mission was really for, and how to proceed. And to talk about that, let's bring on Chris, our final player. He plays Steo, a cranky, cantankerous war veteran and guardsman. Hi, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so to skip back in time, Steo initially took it upon himself to investigate the stack of bodies in the corner, and had discovered they'd been hit by a freezing wind spell, which was probably quite common during the Great War that he had lost most of his marbles during, but which had pushed him over the edge somewhat, and he had galloped out in a state of breakdown to the guard posts where he feels most at home. And as the group were leaving, we were deciding on what would happen next. And Steo, being done with this shit entirely, tried to, in what's left of his broken mind, talk everyone into going back to the outpost for one more night of calm, but was called out by Irfan, saying that I was only saying this because Steo didn't want to go and get into any more danger. And he had a little bit of a snap, not too much, but was outvoted with, I believe, something along the lines of, I'd rather be with people than be alone. And off we set towards the totally safe hole of absolutely not doom.
Absolutely, and I think it's worth mentioning for any newcomers, Irfon's is their goblin companion and sort of their superior in the agency of fortune hunters. But as he ably noted, out here in Davakar, rank doesn't count for anything. So you made your way south from the former Ordo Magica headquarters to the sinkhole, and you know what? Let's flip the map up. The rough map that one of the Ordo Magica survivors drew for you guys. Let's flip that up on screen just so we're aware of where we are. So the outpost is where we arrived. The headquarters is where we spent most of our time in the last couple of sessions with the goblin tribe there, and the sinkhole down there to the southwest. And as we ended last session, you came out on kind of like the rim of the sinkhole and looked down. It's about 100 paces across and a little more deep. And as the sun is kind of passing over the sky, the shadows in the sinkhole are lengthening, and it looks like not an easy place to investigate in general. But you've got to, or you're going to. So how do you do it?
So, I mean, this would be a great time to have remembered to pick up all those supplies in the store cupboard that we most definitely didn't pick up on the way out.
You didn't particularly, but you do have. I think you have like adventuring and travel packs with you. You bought those on your way out of Thistlehold, right? So
yeah, I think
you've got some.
We don't have that grappling hook though, right? Because we gave that to
Correct.
one of the goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the sinkhole like a sheer hole in the ground?
Well, to answer that question, Ascarai, it might be worthwhile having a bit of a look round the sinkhole and seeing what you can see.
Yeah.
Which seems like a wise thing to do. So is that kind of going to be something that Ascarai does by himself, or are other people going to join him in that?
So FNA is definitely going to join.
I'd be interested in not so much appraising the whole, but appraising signs of the various groups who were sent out here and did not return, because we know there were a couple.
Yes. The survivors have mentioned maybe a couple of patrols, and obviously the goblins mentioned that some of their tribe mates died upon emerging from this sinkhole, which seems like an odd thing to have done. So anyone who's going to kind of walk around this sinkhole and inspect it with Ascarai can feel free to give me a cunning roll.
I shall do that now.
Same.
I've completely forgotten which dice we roll. It's a D20.
D20, yeah, D20.
I was literally just like, I played this for months, and suddenly I've forgotten. Ooh, 4. Nice.
I also got a 4. Double 4s.
Cool. Well, anyone who made their cunning rolls can see that there seem to be a couple of potential prospective ways down into the sinkhole. One, perhaps less appealing ways. There do seem to be a couple of points where, some kind of clumps of soil and rock mean that you could potentially kind of climb down the sides to try and get to the bottom. The other alternative that looks a bit more, maybe a bit more agreeable, is that it's not exactly a path, but it's certainly a more level plane rising up from the bottom of the sinkhole and cutting a couple of switchbacks along the side of the sinkhole until it gets to the top. There's a bit of scrabbling you'd have to do, and you'd have to kind of cling a little bit tight to the wall, and would definitely have to go in single file. But it looks, if you're being careful, it looks pretty walkable.
And what's the depth of the sinkhole again? Is it
a little over 100 paces? Whatever that means.
Probably.
So we'd say pace is like a foot. Yeah.
Yeah, pace is a foot, right? Sure.
My adventurer's rope that I have is probably sufficient to reach the bottom then.
100-foot rope.
That's probably excessive, actually, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd be looking at maybe a 50-foot rope tops. If it's all curled up and that. I'm just trying. How many foot to a meter? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
30-meter rope. Yeah, no, that would be exactly.
Yeah. So I think 15-meter rope would be about right. So that's about 50 feet, right? So.
Right. So who else has a rope? Steel, we'll say.
I've got
I think
one.
everyone does.
Yeah.
Because everyone got one of those adventuring packs, right? The adventuring packs, travel packs, whatever they are.
And Tom, can I have your rope?
Sure.
I will join them together with a double sheet bend, and I will fasten to the sturdiest looking tree that's near the rim with probably just a straight up halyard.
This is Davokar. There are plenty of them.
Yep, and then I'll just toss it into the pit because that will give us an emergency way out if the switchback turns out to be cursed or something, because knowing our luck it is.
Sure. So sorry, just to reiterate, are you putting the rope down near that switchback down, or are you doing it more?
No, kind of different. One of the places where there's no immediate easy way up, but this might assist us in kind of pulling our way back up.
Sure, in getting your way back up, yeah. Yeah, it seems to be, the rope you've dropped seems to be reachable from the bottom, so yeah. Seems like cool.
Can we see what is at the bottom, or is it too dark, too far?
It's kind of murky. You can make out angular shapes as if of, rocks and clumps of soil and the like, but you can't get a good look. It's not, it's not horribly dark down there. It's not deep enough for that. You think if you were down there, you'd be able to to see around you, but it's just that the sun is at a certain point in the sky, and the shadows cast from the trees all around, and the depth of it itself means it's quite hard to clearly see the bottom.
Fair enough.
Just to confirm as well, are all of this sort of like the dead sort of swathes of land emanating from this point? Is the area immediately around the sinkhole entirely dead, or is there sort of...
Well, I'd say you've paced all the way around to have a look at this rim, and yes, there are no swathes of dead vegetation and that kind of like horrible desiccated landscape immediately around the sinkhole now.
There aren't any.
There are not.
Okay.
A different set of problems.
A good sign.
There's no good signs in this forest.
A less bad sign.
Fons kind of like nudges a rock near his foot, like as it kind of tumbles its way down to the bottom of the sinkhole with a slight clacking, and says, "Down this path, then."
Seems our best bet. I will start heading down the path.
Okay. I take it you think that if you move kind of slowly and carefully down, you'll probably be down to the bottom in 5 minutes or so. That might seem a lot, but it's it's not a path. It is a very rough way to make it down. So there is definitely a couple of points where you've got to be very careful about it. I'm contradict me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming no one is rushing to get down faster than that.
No.
Quite the opposite.
Quite the opposite. That's fine.
I like having my life.
Out of interest, in what order are we going? And as always, I just ask that question because I'm curious. There's no...
I would say, I would assume Ascarai would go first since he seems the more nimble and lithe of us. I will probably follow second, and then it's up to Mike and Anton. Mike and Anton, those two characters that we have.
Yeah.
My God, I'm actually in Symbaroum. This is horrible.
I hope you're better than Anton.
I'll lag behind as much as is politically safe to do so.
Sure. And we'll say that Urfons is between Anton and Steo. So you make your way down. Nothing kind of leaps out at you or anything like that. Ascarai, as you'd say, you're about 2/3 of the way down to the bottom, and you one of these switchbacks is kind of ahead of you. You can see where this rough scrambling track kind of like comes back round and drops down sharply by your side and back behind you. But ahead of you, it becomes quite clear relatively quickly. There is a quite well concealed cave mouth. And you can just see like the shadow falling deeper into the cave ahead of you.
The cave mouth into the side.
Into the side of the sinkhole, yeah. It looks to be quite large. Certainly a lot, bigger up and across than you.
I will just stop and wait for everyone to be kind of within talking distance and say, it looks as though there's some kind of cave in up ahead. Perhaps we should check it out.
I will light a torch and because I'm assuming we have torches in our adventuring part.
You absolutely do have torches, yeah.
And we'll hand it to Ascarai, just obviously because he is in front of me, and just ask him if he can see anything with the new with the aid of better lighting.
I will draw my dagger and then kind of just poke this torch in and try and have a look inside this the mouth of this cave.
You kind of you kind of lean around the side and push your torch forward and then move it back, not fully, but just back a bit sharply. As you realize you are about to ignite a vast set of translucent, hanging and drifting webbing that is slowly sort of, it blows outwards and then inwards, as if the cave itself is breathing. just beyond your full kind of sight in the shadows of this opening, you can see hefty shapes dangling and slowly spinning or rocking backwards and forth in the webbing.
I will turn around back to the group and say, I think we found our spider god or whatever this creature is. This cave is filled with webs and perhaps some unfortunate prey.
Ascarai, just at the back of your head, like a tingle, the creature is speaking to you again, but this time it's odd and distant, like an echo. You know, you feel like somehow the circle was helping you talk. But again, it talks to you, and as before, it talks not with kind of words or speech, but with images. But images, you find it oddly easy to understand as they rush through your head, and it passes on to you the sentiment that all of you are welcome into its home, and you will not be harmed.
I can feel this creature, Zanatha, talking to me again. She's saying we are welcome for whatever that is worth.
I mean, if these at this point, like I'll have kind of followed and somewhat gingerly for F&A, stepped foot into the cavern, avoiding any of the webs, just like, and yes, I'll step foot in the cabin and just kind of obviously seen the bulky spinning masses and just turn to Ascarai and well, I hope that welcome doesn't mean we end up in that state.
I'm casting a spell of protection. Well, I'm going to try to.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
And I make it. Hey!
Very proud of you.
Who's nearest Anton on either side of him? It's Urfons and
I'm behind you.
Urfons and F&A, right? So you, like anyone near Anton, will see him kind of presumably clutch at his charm of Prios and a gentle, slightly oddly sparkling, almost like a sunspot, like a sun flare. You know when or like what are they called, sun dogs, where you get the you're a nautical man, Chris. Like those odd flare effects you get with the sun when the sky has a certain atmospheric condition when it's very cold, and you get odd flares off the sun like that. The same effect when you look at Anton.
Weird. We don't have to go in right now because we still have the whole sinkhole to investigate. And I raise this because I want to know if Ascarai's benefactor gets angry with our delay, because that will inform us of their intentions.
I do not think we want to see if we can anger this creature.
If this thing has a physical form, then if we anger it, we are 100 paces down in a sinkhole with nowhere to go.
Ascarai, can you communicate back? Have you tried?
I will try to communicate back as I did before in the circle and see.
What do you try to say?
I'll try to ask if she is in this cave in front of us.
She replies in the affirmative and says that you will not need to travel deep. And furthermore, she says that she understands your reluctance, and that lights that glimmer but briefly are the most timorous. But she reiterates again, no harm will come to you from her in this cave. You don't get the impression that that's some kind of like get out riddle. Like she's got a legion of spider warriors in there. They're going to kill you, and then she's going to go, "Hey, I said I wouldn't."
Yeah.
Or we step just outside the cave, and it's like, well, I said I wouldn't kill you in the cave. Ha ha.
I can communicate in some sense, and although I don't know why I feel this way, I do believe that we would be safe if we entered this cave.
For my peace of mind, Ascarai, could you ask your lady spider friend what's in the dangly cocoons? I don't like them.
I think will not like the answer, although I also think that might not reflect on our chances in this cave. But I'll ask if there are humans in the kind of dangling in those things, in the cocoons, in the web.
Amongst other things, yes.
So,
but you are in no danger. You're of use. You can be allies.
And when we've helped you, will we still be in no danger?
Zanatha expresses that above all else, she keeps her word.
Well, they are definitely humans. Probably members of the Ordo Magica, considering they lost people over here. But she has once again expressed that we are safe because we can help her. And we will remain safe while we help her and after we have helped her.
I wish to know what sets us apart from these poor souls. I'm not asking you to ask her now, Ascarai, as I fear asking her too many questions may anger her, and I wish to avoid that. But I am perturbed. It's a big word for Ephania.
If there's safety to be had down there, that's more than we have up here.
Aye, that's true.
This is what we've come here to do. Let's take a brave step forward.
Yes, I will follow up the rear this time. I'll protect you all. Yeah. I will do that.
You mentioned this cave was large. Is it pole arms are useful large, or is it get your dagger out large?
I mean, if you're in there, it might be clunky to get your polearm out, but you could certainly use it if you were in there, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, go in there with it out, perhaps, is the answer.
Yeah, that was my next thing.
You'll have to concentrate quite hard on not cutting open the webs that litter it, but other than that...
I'll carry a blade down.
Sure.
Do not
okay, so we're all entering Zanatha's lair, yes?
Yeah. Probably with a couple of torches lit.
So, yeah, you can have your torches. You just need to hold them low, or the whole place is going to go up.
Okay.
So, as you step forward as a group, probably relatively tightly huddled. As I say, it's large and wide, but not so large that you can all go in abreast. Torches held low. The torches themselves flickering in that sort of the breath that rushes in and out of the cave. You take a few steps forward, trying not to notice as you do so, as you pass the hanging masses in the webs that some of them have hands poking out, and in one case, a kind of long, dangling goblin ear that's turned kind of grey and sallow. You take another few steps forward, and when she emerges from the darkness, it's so swift and startling that some of you probably gasp in alarm, even though you know that she dwells there. And we're going to pop a picture up now. If anyone watching is very arachnophobic, I would say if you just kind of don't like spiders, you'd be fine. If anyone's very arachnophobic,
oh no, Mike,
maybe don't look. But and we'll let you know when it's gone. But John, okay, pop up the picture when you're ready.
I don't like her.
Oof.
So Zanatha is huge, a huge, pale, bone-white spider that lurches out of the darkness and skitters to a halt in front of you. There's an odd kind of almost the light in here is not bright, and there's an odd kind of dreamlike sensation to the scene you see in front of you, and the wind blowing in and out of the cave almost seems to like lull you, and your heartbeats sort of slowly fall into a rhythm with it. Zanatha's voice then appears in all your heads. And again, as I've said, her voice is images and thoughts and emotions, not words or speech in any way, and yet she can make herself understood to you and vice versa. She welcomes you all to her lair, reiterates that she means you no harm, and wishes to propose an alliance. An alliance so that you may tread the halls of the Tomb of Dying Dreams and secure for her the vile water, and along that way, doing whatever matters and gaining whatever treasure is important to you.
I will ask her what I previously voiced to Askarai, and just kind of try and convey the message. What is it that makes us so special and differentiates us from those you feast upon?
Her kind of face, such as it is, flicks over towards you, and she seems to study you briefly with her multifaceted eyes, and then says, "Remarkable. A daughter of the men of the Western Plains. I have not seen your type for a long time. The answer is because you are worthy. Some are worthy of alliances with Zanatha, others are not. I have observed you on your passage through the trees, and clearly you are here with a great cause in mind, and the means and skills to make that cause a reality. And in that, we are similar. With silk of fate that trembles, I weave the future. Perhaps you can be my threads."
Weave
So
the future? Is that a literal thing?
All futures can be literal.
Okay.
And what of this vile water?
An artifact of little interest to lives such as yours. If you tasted of it, if you used it, you would fall swiftly to the darkness that consumes this soil.
And where can we find this within the tomb?
in the deepest reaches of it. But you do not need to secure it for me. You merely need to open my way. I cannot enter the tomb. It is warded against creatures that are not entirely of the physical world. Once these wards are breached, I can secure the dark water myself. The vile water.
So our task, our cause here is to secure the safety of our people. And I will kind of, trying to answer her in kind with images, I'll try and sort of call up the picture of the copper crown and kind of, we need to find a way to destroy or bind this artifact and protect others and protect our people from it.
With a sense of, you feel amusement, her eyes flick to you and she says, this artifact is no longer in the tomb. You know this, yes?
We did not.
Oh, I think you did. It was brought to Thistlehold.
Yes, but then it got brought back, didn't it?
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
All you know is that the Order Magica outpost lost communication.
Oh. If the way is opened to you, will you visit upon our people greater torment than this artifact has already?
I honestly state for you now, your people are of absolutely no interest to me.
Will your... Sorry, you go on, Mike.
And what becomes of us once we have served your purpose and opens this path for you?
Once you have opened the path to me, you are no longer a part of the web I spin. Your lives are your own.
Whatever exists in this tomb has destroyed an entire expedition of people not too dissimilar to us. Can you offer us any help or guidance to overcome it?
If I could not, it would not be a bargain worth making for you, no? I can tell you something of the tomb's layout. I can also tell you of the other things you face. I am not the only one here in search of my treasure.
This would be of great use. And if we might know some of what else was buried with this forgotten king, and what should be avoided, and what may be claimed in the name of our queen. But most of all, I suppose, I don't feel like we are at risk with you. You've made yourself clear and you're communicating with us earnestly. We would only ask that you extend your protection for us as your threads until such time as we have left Davokar and returned to the plain settlements.
The only protection I can truly grant will not avail you much beyond the region of the tomb.
I will at this point kind of ask, just quickly interject and ask, do you plan to remain in Davokar once we have secured your path to the vile water?
I'm sure I shall spend some time here.
Do you plan to make your way to the human settlements?
As I say, humans are of no interest to me.
FNA is pretty. I'm pretty fine with that. It seems like whatever's going to happen, it's not going to happen to anyone she cares about. So she's happy to throw in her lot with the creepy giant spider lady.
Yep. Same. Steve was pretty not happy. There are gaps in the agreement as stated, but he's definitely amenable to it.
I'll look over it. And Tom, since I figure that he'll be the one that kind of gives us the most what the hell, why are we working with a giant spider? And ask what he thinks of this all.
I think slightly under my breath, I think I'll just say that we need to go to the tomb anyway. This does not seem like it's a task which is going to distract us from our original purpose. Let's help this creature, and by doing so, let us help ourselves achieve our goals.
Yes, I agree.
The wind from deep in the cave seems to blow just a little harder, and Zanatha says, "Then an accord is struck." So first, for my part, my help will be twofold. First, I will tell you of the interior of the tomb as far as I've been able to progress, given my limitations. I will tell you something of the enemies you may face, and then I will grant you aid in facing them. First, the tomb. There are two paths that lead through it. One to the left, one to the right. The one to the left, as far as I could progress, had no opposition, but my way was barred by a gate made strong against beings such as I, and one more easily opened by beings such as you. The other to the right leads to a large rift created quite recently. Clambering from the depths of this rift has come one of my adversaries in our quest for the vile water. She is called Fangaffer by some, the Thorn Queen by others. I strongly suggest you not face her in direct conflict. However, there is another way. It leads to Fangaffer's chamber, but would probably allow you to move through there discreetly or quickly and gain access to the deeper parts of the tomb. That way is through the base of this sinkhole. Caverns, tunnels, leading throughout the underworld and further into the Tomb of Dying Dreams.
And once there, we clear the way. Can you explain what you mean by that? Will we face enemies to be slain? Will we open the gate for you?
I truly have no idea of what is beyond that gate, or beyond Fangaffer. I can find my way past neither of them. But once you do, go in, fight your way to the depths, claim what is yours, and merely leave the vile water to me.
Are the tunnels you mentioned to the underworld, are they relatively safe? Are they your domain? Or
Oh, no.
fantastic.
But they may allow you to sneak around or not directly fight the Thorn Queen, if that is a path you choose. There is still always the path to the left in the tomb, through the gate.
At the moment, that sounds like my preferred path. I'll say this to the party rather than to her. I'm not like excluding her, but you know, and I'll just say that yeah, I personally I feel that we should go in the route that the Ordo Magica apprentices would have, the Ordo Magica party would have gone in. They obviously won't have used the underground route, and we must remember that our original goal is that bisect of that bitch Euphrinda. So that's my lot. I think we should go in through the main entrance, as it were, through to the left gate. It seems the safest and most logical explanation, but
I think I like the idea of at least scouting out if the Ordo Magica breached that door, and maybe we can gather some information on what's directly behind it for our benefactor here. But we should not preclude taking a scouting recce, then retreating, and then taking the what seems to be more surreptitious route via the underground.
I agree with that, Steo. I think if we find ourselves needing to venture into the underground caverns, we should go back to Gabba Big Paw and find out what happened to his clan, because I think that they were driven from underground.
You said they were driven, they were driven from their home underground.
Yeah.
And then encountered Zanatha, unfortunately. The spider something being goddess says there is more opposition you may face. First, I would say that while the copper crown was taken from the tomb, I can feel it somewhere nearby. Others, it seems, have taken up the king's crown and have perhaps come to reclaim his goods.
A third party, or do you suspect this Fangatha to be involved in its trafficking?
Fangatha is not one given to or capable of dealing with mortals in anything but a extremely brutal fashion.
Understood.
I imagine this Fangatha is the one responsible for the paths of death that run through the forest here.
And there we come on to my other adversary.
Oh.
There's more than one. How many adversaries do you have, Zanatha?
I know not what this one is. I have, in my idle moments, been referring to it as the creeping darkness. I'm sure you have encountered what it leaves in its wake. And against this last thing of shadow and cold, this I can help you with directly. If you would
Now we're
but
talking.
receive my blessing, its touch will no longer destroy you.
Receive her blessing.
I will give Anton a kind of side glance here, but otherwise I'm more than happy to proceed with that.
I am not, because obviously we have spoken to a gentleman who received a blessing and it was a big festering wound. And so I'm going to ask as much. And just, Zanatha, I do not wish to offend you, but the reason obviously we came into contact with you in the first place was due to speaking to another human who claims to have received your blessing, whether this be true or not, and he now has a gigantic wound.
The keeper of the circle. Yes.
So, can you possibly explain two things to us, if you would? First, what your blessing entails, and second, why he seems to have been driven mad by you, possibly.
Oh, I'm afraid the poor mortal was already maddened by the time I crept into his chamber. And what it entails? Nothing, daughter. Just a kiss.
I haven't had a kiss in years.
And what exactly would your blessing protect us against? Just this creature, or the type of magic that it uses in general?
The broader sense of its cold touch. You would have a defense against that for some time, but my blessing is not a thing that lasts forever.
So you're saying that it does wear off?
In enough time, yes.
I know you may not have a similar sense of time to us mortals, but are we talking years, weeks, days, months?
A few, a couple of spans of the moon.
I'm just going to turn to Anton and say, what's a span of the moon?
I think FNA would know that that's a month.
A month? Excellent. I knew that.
Because apparently Symbaroum and Symbaroum's moon operate exactly the same way as Earth. So
okay, right. Will we be in any discomfort while we receive this blessing? The gentleman's neck seemed rather painful.
there is only a momentary discomfort.
This is just like going to dentists.
Actually does sound quite a lot like my last kiss.
Okay,
I have one trailing question. You mentioned the king of the old tomb has artifacts other than his crown. What should we be wary of?
I have no idea what lies in the tomb beyond the gate, other than somewhere is the vile water.
Okay.
And do you know of much of the king?
No, I'm afraid I do not. It's he existed sometime after I first delved into the spirit world, and I have not paid much attention to the lives of mortals since, until now.
So at this point, FNA, and in my usual thoughtlessness and just kind of general impatience, will just kind of go and like her hair in a braid and kind of shift it over her shoulder so her neck is exposed, and just walk up to Zanatha, trembling slightly because it's still a giant spider, and say, fine, make it quick, and just present her neck.
She regards you and says, "Oh, but it is a pact with all or a pact with none. All of you, line up here. Line up before Zanatha, on your knees."
Could she be any less spooky about this?
on your knee.
Could this
climbing.
giant, pale, bone-like
Spider
spider be just a bit less spooky about biting us?
Yeah, okay. It's Steele will go over and stand next to, or kneel, I suppose, next to Effie.
I'm willing. And Tom?
May Prios protect me. Okay.
I think Prios has long left the building, Anton.
So, one by one, you receive the kiss of Xanatha. Elle,
Yes.
as you feel a momentary sharpness dig into the back of your neck, and then a flood, a kind of opiate feeling floods through you, and you feel your body relaxing. You can feel the pain, but you don't care about it anymore. And deep in the back of your head, you feel Xanatha saying, "You are a child of many gods, many goddesses. When I roamed this world last, your people were far to the west. But then, when I roamed this world last, there was no forest." You kind of slump forward. You kind of slump forward a bit and feel like you were kind of being held up slightly, but you didn't realize because you were so out of it, and you kind of slump to the base of the cave with a now kind of fading warmth through your body. Like the warmth that flooded through is just retreating back, and slowly you are coming to your senses. Steo, you feel the same. The pain at the back of your neck, the opiate feeling rushing through your blood, and the voice of Xanatha says, "A warrior from a land to the south. You have been scarred deeply by the battles you have fought. There will be more battles and more scars. But do not fret over the wars of your past. The fights yet to come are against things far more dark and deep and old." And then you're released. Ascarai, again, you feel the kiss of Xanatha, and her voice says, "A child of the children of the forest. 1 foot in their world, 1 foot outside. I wonder what you know of your parents and your ancestors and your heritage. I wonder if you know what that ring means." She releases you. Anton, you feel the sting, you feel the warmth flood through you. It seems to have a harder time than not that you can compare it, but for anyone else released, Anton's bite seems to take slightly longer. And she says, "Oh, for you, the kiss of Xanatha is but the briefest of dalliances, the briefest romance. For you are given to another, aren't you, priest? Interesting. Prios. He was known as the Smith back then, when he was one of many." And you're released. In amongst that, Earthons also was bitten. I remembered Earthons. And yeah, you're all kind of clambering to your feet. You feel no different. Now that the warmth has kind of fled. Anyone feeling the back of their neck will feel there are definitely 2 wounds there, but they're, like a needle, right? So it's so tight that it's kind of closed over, and there's only the slightest amount of blood.
A moment's pleasure and then a lingering feeling of regret. This is exactly my last kiss, everyone.
You were on mute. You were on mute there, by the way. Ella.
Yeah, I realised. Yeah, I was saying, can we ascertain that the reason that the Automagica survivors is so bad is simply because he kept like scratching it and it got like infected.
I think I did kind of imply that in the session anyway, because he kept kind of like fussing at it. So
okay, cool.
And he was covered in dirt, and not good.
So do we make for shelter tonight and try to enter the tomb tomorrow?
I do not wish to enter the tomb in the evening.
Sorry, I would just ask, are you having this conversation with the looming spider goddess over you, or are you kind of taking the chance to exit the cave sooner rather than later?
I think, honestly, Steo, is as weird as the situation is, given you don't often deal with spider goddesses, this thing is the closest thing to an ally he's seen in some time, so he is having the conversation as though she was sat at the table.
Yeah.
Sure.
But making to leave as well, like starting to gather stuff up. And
we should rest tonight. It must be late by now. And as FNS says, we don't want to be entering or even worse, emerging from this tomb in night.
Unless, and I will project this to Xanatha as well, unless your blessing somehow also gives us expert night vision.
You just get a sensation of kind of bafflement back from Xanatha.
Just a sensation of
the odd whims of mortals.
Okay, I'll take that as a no then. Yeah, we should definitely rest up this evening. I want to be at full strength before taking on whatever horrors, unspeakable horrors, as per usual, we will take on in this sodding tomb.
Ooh, we've been raided. Hello, raiding people. Does anyone know who raided us? We should be able to see. Nerds with dice. Hello, thank you.
I'm so bad with Twitch, I don't even know what a raid is.
A raid is when one stream ends, and when it ends, everyone gets bounced to another stream.
Ah, fantastic. Hello, raiders.
So, with that in mind, are we now leaving Xanatha's cave?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly still comfortable with gigantic spider goddess.
Who is? So as you kind of stride out of the cave, and if anyone looking back sees Xanatha kind of slowly kind of merging with the darkness from which she came, and you all just hear her voice echoing in the back of your head. Remember, do not partake of the vile water. It is mine. And then you emerge out into late daylight, but still daylight kind of blinking away, and obviously not in a comfortable position. You're still on this rough path leading down the sinkhole. Earthons takes a few steps away to one side, and anyone looking at him can see he's kind of pale and shaking visibly, and he just goes, "I hate spiders," and spews the contents of his guts out all along the path and down the side, and he's kind of like shaking visibly and obviously trying to pull himself together a bit.
I'll rub his back a bit and just, in my usual FNA way, clap it somewhat accidentally, forcefully, and just hopefully not sending him into a pool of his own vomit, but you never know.
Or into the sinkhole, given FNA's.
Roll for strength. Oh God. But yeah, and just I'm with you on that one, friend. Though I wonder that my exchange with Xanatha may have shone a new light upon spiders for me. I doubt all bites will be as pleasant. Question mark.
Effie, what did she mean? She talked about you being a daughter from the Western Plains. I thought you were from Davokar.
Yeah, you have absolutely no idea.
I know as much as you, Anton. Okay, now that we're out of the earshot, the spider just calls in from the background. No, you're not.
I'm still here.
Now that we're out of earshot, when I received her kiss, she gave me some information. She told me, she once again said I was a daughter of the West, and that my people used to worship many gods, which I already knew. However, she also said that Davokar hadn't always been here, which is news to me. I thought this forest was as old as time.
More.
Did anyone else hear anything?
She spoke to me about events from the far distant time, about a time when Prios was just one of many gods, and a time when he was known as the Smith. It didn't make much sense to me, but I somehow believed what she said.
I bet Ordo Magica nerds would have had much more fun with this than I did. She told me there's worse fights to come, but more important ones as well.
I believe that too.
Unfortunately.
Looks like we're in this for the long haul. Whoever would have thought that staying at the Witch and Familiar for one evening would have led to this shitstorm.
Well, in fairness, it was Bow associating with that dodgy Baumello fella got us into this trouble in the first place. Where are we sleeping tonight? Are we going to go?
Outpost, Charlie.
It'll be near midnight by the time we get back there.
Well, what other options do we have?
It'll be and not to naysay you, but no, you'll definitely be fine. It's maybe like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that now, and it'll take you probably a little over 2 hours to get back there.
I don't think Gabba will allow us in their headquarters, so
I want nothing to do with that treacherous goblin anyway. Sorry, Earthons.
Well, Earthons kind of shrugs. He's beyond you casually racially slurring his people at this point.
Oh, it's just FNA. She's a product of her generation.
Do we will we take a look at the floor of this sinkhole and then make for the outpost?
It would definitely only take you another couple of minutes to get to the bottom of the sinkhole.
I think while we're here, we may as well. It makes little sense to not investigate, because, as I say, our main mission is to explore what happened to the Ordo Magica, and we've had hints leading to here. This Zanatha has been helpful, but she is not our priority.
Well, I think we already found a good deal of the Ordo Magica hanging from the roof of her lair, but
some of those were goblins, which makes me wonder if Gabba's tribe ran into her lair or what the story is there.
Perhaps she's just been hunting them as they came up from this sinkhole.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and at this point, I will just stride forwards, do my usual thing, and start walking down, but still carefully.
Yeah, it only takes you a couple of minutes to get down the rest of this kind of like rough switchback path down to the base of the sinkhole. The base of the sinkhole is just a sprawling cluster of loose soil, rocks, kind of what are obviously trees that have tumbled down here. It's evident from like the state of these trees that the sinkhole has been here, a while, but not, not years or anything. But it didn't happen last week or anything like that, because the trees are kind of, they're very much dead and broken to pieces among the bottom of the sinkhole. At a first glance, there's not a huge amount of interest down here, but I'm going to assume that you're going to take a bit of a detailed look around, being, as Zanatha mentioned, a path of some kind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well then, anyone who's looking around at the bottom of the sinkhole, feel free to give me a vigilant roll.
Yeah.
Shall do. Let us vigilant.
That's a success for Chris.
It is.
I
Let's
got a
do
That's for me.
6. And
Yeah. Will this be a universal success? Only Elle will tell.
An 8, which is a success.
Hey.
Nice.
Then basically you kind of wander around together, and together you all more or less at the same time find yourself nearby what appears to be a pile of rocks that looks, just like any other at first glance. But as you get closer, you see that there's not much in the way of packed soil between these rocks. And if you kind of have a look in these gaps between the boulders, you can see that there's some kind of crack in the earth that moves into kind of like a rock face very quickly. And if you tumbled these rocks aside, you would definitely be able to locate a crack that seems to lead to a tunnel through the rock underneath Davakar.
So that will be the pathway to the Lady Zanatha's, or the Lady Fangatha's chambers, I imagine.
Seems a very risky way to try and enter this too. But perhaps it'll...
Surreptitious, though.
Well,
I agree with the original Steele's original plan, in that we scope out in the main entrance and then perhaps backtrack and use the more surreptitious, as we say,
agreed.
pathway.
Sure.
Sounds good. Is my rope? My rope is down here somewhere as well, I assume.
Yeah. Your rope is nearby, but it's probably better served. Like, if you want to recover it, then obviously that's better done at the top.
I was more kind of going to give it a tug and say, "Do you reckon you can make it up that Ascarai?"
I could try, but why bother when there's a very easy
Perfectly
path?
good collapsed side of a sinkhole to scramble up. Well, fair enough. Suit yourself.
Okay. With that in mind, is there anything else you're doing down in the sinkhole, or are you basically intending to kind of call the day there, head back to the outpost, and spend the night?
Can I look for signs of goblins? Any goblin?
Absolutely. Why don't you give me a vigilant roll at -2, please?
Okay, I'll need a 13, and I got an 8, so I make it.
Okay. As the others are kind of looking around these rocks a bit more, you pace away and look around the sinkhole, and finally find yourself at a point that's basically at the sort of at the foot of the track you came down, but a little bit kind of further back. And as you look up, you can see that it's kind of directly in front of Zanatha's lair, up kind of part way up the wall of the sinkhole. And as you look down and kind of kick in the dirt, you find a couple of very rough kind of flint knives and spears, one of which is kind of broken in half and discarded on the ground. And you kind of kick around further, and like your toe sort of finds something larger in the earth, and you scatter it to one side, and then blanch slightly at the sight of a severed goblin arm that's now, rotting quite badly in the loamy earth of Davakar.
There's a goblin here. Seems well, they fought something down here. It's an arm, severed arm. Whether it was Zanatha or something else that drove them up, it's hard to say, although the path leading from this Thorn Queen's chamber seems...
I mean, it does, common sense definitely dictates that if they emerge from the sinkhole and were set upon by a pale horror, then either there's far more pale horrors around, and there were definitely goblins hanging in her webs. So,
yeah.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that one, Askry. He's harmless.
Steel, you're uncharacteristically mirthful this evening.
I've seen death at least 3 times today.
You also had a kiss, so not all bad.
Yeah, let's go home. I can sleep it off.
Okay. Unless there's anything else people want to do in the sinkhole, you can scale up the side a bit slower than coming down, but still kind of safely. You reach the rim of the sinkhole, and now the sun is definitely starting to set. And you head back. Are you heading kind of straight back towards the outpost, or are you kind of going back the way you've come, like from the outpost to the headquarters, and then on back to from the sinkhole to the headquarters, and then back to the outpost?
I would say possibly. I mean, feel free to disagree with me. I'd say straight back, because I don't think any of us would be too keen on the idea of just wandering about Davakar in the evening.
So I'll it's seeing that kind of motion from FNA. I'll be kind of like, are you sure it's going to be quicker cutting through the jungle than it will be walking along the path?
Well, we have to go back to reach the path. It will be harder going, but at least it's more direct.
We've been up and down the path a few times already and didn't encounter any problems. It's a safe route, or as safe as it gets here.
Yeah, better the forest we've walked through and the path we know than trying to cut a random route back. This place is still dangerous. Just because we've got a benefactor now does not mean we're safe from sickle flies or whatever other horrors prowl this area of the forest.
I don't know. I mean, if we have a spider's bite, I feel we would be quite well equipped against flies.
That's nearly as good as the harmless one. I will also make it clear that I'm recovering both the ropes, but both of the repelling ropes.
Yeah.
I don't care which way we go. I'm just in favour of getting back to that outpost.
Okay. You think probably the quickest way will be the non-direct way, because that's the way you know. Earthons is going to also vote for that way. So if people are comfortable with it, then you head back north through the forest, getting yourself mildly lost a couple of times, but you're heading roughly directly north, so it's not entirely difficult to make your way. And you emerge in that large clearing of the keep. There's kind of like, night has fallen now, but you can see against the stars the kind of pillar of smoke still coming up from presumably where the goblins are, perhaps cooking and eating a meal. You find the path off to the west easy enough, head down there, cut across those swathes of desiccated vegetation, and you find yourself at the outpost, where uncharacteristically the door to the outpost is open, and Marla is kind of stood in it, kind of peering around. And as you appear walking around the side of the enclosure, she gives you a kind of relieved wave.
I'll, wave back and just hold there as a greeting.
She says, "Oh, good. I suppose we were worried."
Is everything okay here?
Yes, fine.
We met a spider goddess older than the forest today. How's your day been?
What?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I'm just going to clap Steo on the back, somewhat even more forcefully than usual, and just now, Steo, let's not joke around with the poor Odo Magicas. You know, they're traumatized enough as it is already.
Marla kind of turns around and looks back into the shack at Plendle and says, "Perhaps not in here?"
I'm just going to make a motion and just kind of shoot Steo a look and just kind of step in between him and Marla and just said, "Do not worry. He was joking. He's had a bit of a stressful day with the goblins and whatnot, and this is just how his sense of humor manifests. Isn't that right, Steo?"
Yeah, and by whatnot she means the ancient elder spider goddess older than time itself. I'll go into the room, but I will like squeeze into the room. I basically ensuring I have the last word, but otherwise dropping it.
Okay. So after a while, you kind of share an evening meal with Marla and Plendel. They both kind of go to sleep in a corner of the room, and the five of you are left kind of gathered around the low fire. Is there anything you want to kind of discuss about your plans for the next day, or do we want to just roll forward to the morning?
Let's just roll forward to the morning.
Sure.
Well, we can make a plan as we march there, I guess.
Well, we have our plan, don't we? Because the plan was let's go in the front and see what happened to the Ordo Magica, and then make a decision then.
Absolutely. So the morning comes, as it often does, but not always, folks. And you wake yourselves up, get yourself ready, arm yourselves, and head out into the forest. And are we okay to kind of hand wave our way to the keep at least, so that we can move forwards? You make your way through the forest, you pass the keep, and on the other side of the keep, as Ascarai noted when he did his kind of like search round, there is, and I can't remember if I mentioned it at the time, but there is another path leading kind of to the southeast of the keep, which definitely is kind of congruous with where the tomb is marked on the map. In fact, let's have the map up and just again remind ourselves, and for anyone who's just tuned in, of the general layout of this area. It's great. I can see John scanning to the thing now. I have admin privileges on this. So yeah, there we go. The tomb looks to be a fair way down and off from the headquarters, but there seems to be a path there.
I'd say we don't even bother with these goblins today and just straight down the path.
Do we want to nip in and borrow some of the grappling hooks and anything else in that store that might be useful to us?
Do we have to actually enter the out of character? Do we have to actually enter the headquarters to do that?
We don't have to go into the tower building.
Just outside.
Yeah, you can. Well, you can just go into the cursed hut, right? And just get more boxes of supplies from there.
So we could do that without having to encounter.
You think so? Yeah, they seem to be mostly keeping to the keep.
Yeah. In that case, I'm fine with this idea. The more prepared we are, the better.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you reach there, you head into the large kind of barn structure. It's still quite cold in there, although definitely less than it was last time. And you grab kind of whatever supplies you want generally from there. There's rope, grappling hooks, shovels, things of that nature, and anything. Let's not build a list. Let's just say that if it comes to a time when you need these things, you'll have these things.
Cool.
Nice.
Generic traveling gear.
Generic adventure packs.
Excellent.
Adventure loot boxes.
I didn't realize we were playing D&D.
You rinse your mouth out. Viewer numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the path toward the place, I stored some of those like eternal purple flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take one out today and see in the wake of the spider goddess's kiss, am I reacting differently to them?
Nope.
Okay, not as spooky as I thought.
I believe Marla had plucked a lot of them as well on her way through when she accompanied you, but no, it seems like the same vaguely, faintly sweet-smelling purple lily to you.
Is it a single file path that we're on?
Yeah, pretty much. Like feet have like tromped this down, but not hugely so. It's more that like the sides of the path have been cleared a bit of vegetation. Someone's come through this way with a machete. Essentially, is the main feature of the path. And as you make your way down southeast along this pathway from the Goblin's Keep, you again keep coming across, slashes of grey desiccation through the wilderness and through the trees of this forest. No rhyme or reason to them that you can pick up, but presumably the path of where this creeping darkness that Zanatha talked about has roamed for whatever reason. It takes you probably a little bit longer than it takes you to go from the outpost to the headquarters, which I think we've labeled as about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it takes you about 3 hours of moving through the forest. And every now and then you come across kind of some sign that other people have been here, whether it's a kind of discarded empty ration pack, or kind of slight footprints in the soil that probably Ascarai can recognize more than the others of you do. And eventually you emerge into at first you think it's simply another slight clearing in the forest, because it's not very large and there is no visible tomb here of any kind. And then when you're about halfway across the clearing, one or more of you, perhaps Ascarai as the scout type, glances over to your left and you see a small sunken area in the ground into the grasses and undergrowth of Davakar. And it's like the smallest of paths down into the earth, leading about 10 feet down to where a large set of stone double doors stand, with one of the doors kind of like half open. And now that you've seen the doorway there, you can see that behind it is just the slightest of like sunken space in the forest floor, which then rises again a little bit around the doorway. But honestly, it would be very easy to have walked past it.
I think we've arrived.
Excellent. Who's ready for our next, I'm sure not at all dangerous step of our adventure?
Yeah, we're scouting today. Path to the left, break the seal.
Path left gate.
Try
Yes.
not to get too sucked in and stay alive.
I think the first one, the last one, is the most important.
Yeah, always is. If we find this Fangaffa,
We run. I do not like saying this. You know that I am willing to face any enemy, but if a spider goddess has told us that we can't face it, I do not wish to trifle with it.
We need to run.
As you stand here outside the tomb, kind of debating, a kind of cold rain starts to fall from above and drip through the eaves, because even though it's a clearing, the trees of Davakar are large and overhanging, and there's still a canopy above you from which the water drips with a, when a kind of the off-kilter rhythm of a drip is kind of annoying and just frustrating to have these splats of water like that.
Water torture, excellent.
Yeah.
I'll
just make a move. Yeah. Can we? Would we be able to light a torch or not?
Oh yeah. You know, oil and stuff will survive rain splatter. Yeah. Before you go in, yeah, absolutely. Well, I shall describe the entrance to you first. As I said, it is kind of a large double stone door, and around it is a bracing stone, kind of white stone frame that's partly crumbled and decaying in the forest floor. Around it appear to be unintelligible symbols to you. Sort of, and I never know quite how to pronounce this, but I think it's cuneiform, sort of very rudimentary language symbols are carved all the way around it, interspersed occasionally with the Symbaric markings that are familiar to you all from artifacts that come in and out of Thistlehold all the time. If any of you had Lawmaster, you could have a go at translating them.
I absolutely do not. All I'm good for is getting us food and killing things.
Pretty good.
Okay.
I'm probably just gonna stride straight up because if I can't understand them, why would I bother?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting my halberd into it's going to be a busy day position rather than strapped to my back position.
I will also take my sword from my back. And
Sure.
I will never stop mentioning the sword back thing now, sorry.
That's okay. So just to be clear on this, the person who wields their sword two-handed is the one holding the torch.
No. I will give the sword. I will not give the sword to anyone.
I think the only person who doesn't use their weapon with two hands is
I'll give it to
Anton.
Mike.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll give it to Anton.
And anyway, a priest of Prios should be rather happy about holding a naked flame, I should imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be holding it in this location above all others as well.
Absolutely. You seem to be all in agreement of just going through these doors. As I say, one of the doors is very much ajar. It looks huge and heavy, and now it looks as if it's been ajar long enough that earth has kind of packed around the base of it, and you get the impression it would be really quite difficult to try and move back into place. You all take a few steps forward and almost immediately find yourself in a relatively large stone chamber. There is nothing to differentiate the chamber itself on the walls or the ceiling or the floors. There are pathways away to your left and right, kind of just openings, rough stone openings in the wall that lead to further stone passages. On the floor of the chamber are three notable things. First is what looks like a relatively recently dead novice of the Ordo Magica. The second is what looks to be an empty, somewhat archaic and slightly scorched set of metal armor. And the last is those two are quite proximate to each other, but a little further away is what looks like a corpse in a very advanced state of decomposition.
I will kneel down to the fresher looking corpse and just kind of scan the body, see if I can find any sort of identification, because they might have, I don't know if on the passes, the traveling.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if they have their names on.
They may not have needed those because they're operating for the Ordo Magica, and therefore more for kind of individuals on their own or in groups, sort of thing. But you can certainly have a look and see what she was kind of carrying on her in some sense.
So, I have come across a number of shambling undead hulks in my time over the last couple of months. So the corpse in an advanced state of decay, does it happen to have a bone-like crown protruding from its head?
No, it does not. It looks like a normal human corpse, but it's been here for quite a long. I mean, when I say a long time, I don't mean hundreds of thousands of years, but it's enough that it is starting to fall apart considerably.
And obviously, the other one we fought was when dealing with the skin borrower.
Mm-hmm.
Is that more akin to what we're looking at?
I mean, that had no skin, but this one doesn't look to have immediately at first glance to have been skinned. But I mean, it looks like a corpse. It doesn't look like a walking corpse. So
it's not walking at the minute. It might just be resting, Matt. Okay. I know. I got what I came for.
Rest. Cool. So Elle is kind of rummaging through the novices. Or the former novice's possessions. Steo is kind of cautiously investigating the other decomposing remains. Ascarai, Anton, what kind of things are you doing?
Probably taking a look at the armor just to see. You said it was scorched.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, so Ascarai's taking a look at the armor. Anton?
I think actually I'm trying to maybe build up a really clear mental image of the layout of this place, because like we don't know how big it is. Like we know it goes down some way from what we've heard, but yeah, we're gonna need to find our way out. So, like I don't know, maybe if I could pause for a minute and like maybe scribble a quick map down on a piece of paper or something.
I think that would be a very good idea. And you know what? Bizarrely, I forgot to mention it, but me and John did suggest that we suggest this to you because I think that Anton would see this as his role, kind of examining this place more carefully. Well, for your purposes, if you want to like make any kind of notations of it, Mike, and in terms of how big it is, this chamber is 7 meters by 8 meters. So it's not huge, but it's not it's a relatively significant space. Actually, no, I'm full of complete horseshit. It's 14 by 16 meters. That's much bigger. Much bigger. So yes. Also, you know what we forgot earlier? We forgot about your corruption for casting Blessed Shield. But having said that, a day has passed. So any corruption you would have rolled with that has now gone. But also, obviously, Blessed Shield is gone because we're no longer in that scene.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about it. But let's remember, should you cast it again or anything.
I'm glad you did cast it. It was very useful.
Hey, it was,
the one time I managed
the one time you managed to cast it, and the giant spider didn't try and eat you.
I mean, I'm glad.
Yeah. So yeah, Anton can be kind of maybe even using a notebook to scribble, to start scribbling down your path. Yeah. So it's about 14 by 16 meters. There's a path to the west and a path to the east. Presumably the left and right paths that Zanatha referred to. So let's go through these character actions one by one. So Ephanea, now that you're kind of searching through this body, you find some various kind of personal knickknacks. You find a knife that's kind of appeared to have been drawn to the point where like it's clasped in the novice's hand. And you find what appears to be in the same, basically it's an Ordo Magica notebook that looks almost identical to the one that Tonsil had.
I will take that and obviously flip through it, see, because obviously Tonsils was full of mad scribblings, but also some useful information. So I'll immediately see if there's anything written in here that could be of any assistance.
Absolutely.
Not that I can read it, but
no. What, can you read out? Not read Ambrian? Did we decide that? Or?
No, yeah, we decided I couldn't read Ambrian.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then there seems to be a lot of notes in it, but you've got no idea what they say. Although at least one of the pages appears to have a sketch of the symbols around the door outside on a page facing a load of notes.
I'm just going to hand it to Anton since he is already fiddling about with paper and stuff, and just say, I found notes. Could you read these for me?
Of course, and I'll sort of gather them under the torchlight and have a quick flick through them and see if there's anything of interest.
Absolutely. And while you do that, I will, and I should have potentially done this before, I will snip the relevant bits out from the book, that because I feel like if you're the one reading it, you should be the one reading it out, right? So let's do that thing. While we're doing that, though, let's also talk about let's have a look at Steo. So Steo, tell me exactly what you're doing in terms of, how you're, are you just kind of going near this corpse and poking it a bit with your pole arm and being satisfied there?
Yeah, and my concern is it a crown monster? And if it is not...
It definitely does not look anything. It looks like an oldish, decayed, normal human body.
Yeah, so I will move on pretty quickly to investigate the armor once I finished with that.
Very well. Then you can join Ascarai in his investigation of said armor. So, Ascarai, can you give me a vigilant test, please?
Yep. Just normal difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I need 15. I got a 2. Nice.
Okay. You can't tell anything immediately about the armor itself, but you can see that it seems to be primarily scorched on the inside of the armor.
Scorched on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any indication of how long it might have been here? Is it like rusting at all? Or?
This armor looks very old. It's maybe some kind of bronze or copper, and it's covered in verdigris and, just the crinkles of slow warping over time. And it's kind of a complete set of armor. If you think of kind of like, I guess, classical kind of hoplite armor or something like that, looks a bit like that with a breastplate and kind of some greaves, some kind of forearm pieces. But they kind of, at some point, have kind of meant to click together, but,
So this is going to be... This, I imagine I will recognize this as medium armor for those who want to catch fire when they put it on, because it's a cursed object.
You will certainly recognize it as armor you wouldn't want to trust against modern weaponry.
Yeah. That, I will mutter to Askrai, is a lovely antique piece.
I don't understand why it's scorched on the inside. What has happened?
I would not bet against it being cursed.
It also... Sorry, I didn't actually mention as well, by the way, that this armor has scattered next to it a couple of quite short, again, old bronze short swords, and that the armor itself has kind of odd symbols on it that look comparable, perhaps, to the symbols on the frame outside the door frame. I probably should have mentioned those things.
No.
It's just some relic from long ago.
Might get a decent price in the northern market, but...
I mean, I do not wish to touch armor that's scorched from the inside. It seems to me that its owner blew up.
Oh yeah, certainly. Like I said, I'd flip a coin. Heads, it's cursed. Tails, it's probably also cursed. I'm not moving it.
Those are some very poor odds. Well, if it's been here all this time, everyone else must have left it.
Or died defending it. I'll kind of point over to the Ordo Magica corpse. Actually, I think I'll go and take a more formal... Can I roll a Medicus, please?
You absolutely can roll a Medicus on that corpse. I was waiting for someone with Medicus to look at it. You just give me a Vigilant test.
A Vigilance, okay. Yes! Wow! The rolls tonight.
Okay. This woman has been dead for maybe a little under 2 weeks, you'd guess. And she was killed with, you would guess, again, multiple thrusts with a sword.
Died by the sword. Maybe the antique bronze sword, but I'm not that skilled in the forensic arts.
Well, that means that whatever was wielding it was humanoid.
Yeah. I think this particular mystery does not need to be solved immediately, though.
Aye.
At least everything in here is not moving and trying to kill us.
Anton, you've been able to... I assume you've moved on from your kind of mapping to having a look through this notebook, or...
Yep.
Yeah? We'll tell you what. Rather than flash it up on screen or anything, what we'll do is we'll use the magic of Discord, Mike. And
Ooh.
I will message you on Discord, if that's all right.
Of course it is.
If I can find you on my Discord, with the images that you will... So this first one, it's basically like... it's separated out into sections because it's like different note areas that the novice seems to have been making. And feel free to just read it out or cherry pick it or however you think Anton would do that. And this second one, ignore the first part of it because that's me. That's an instruction to me on how it can be translated. But we've jumped over that by you finding the novice's notes. So just read out the quote underneath, on the underneath bit.
Okay.
But yeah, how do you want to do it?
I'll go for the first one first. I've not really had a chance to skim it, so I'll just read it all out. The symbols speak of the greatness and wisdom of King Hurrian Lo Apak, of how he earned his throne after having outsmarted the spider goddess Aroke and bested the toad drot Araka. From Oroki, the king claimed the source of his power, a chalice filled with divine nectar. Aided by the powerful essence, he became immortal, conquered all lands between the corners of the world. Here follows a long list of other local Symbian rulers that Hurien Lo Apak dethroned and forced to kneel before him. Finally govern his realm with equal amounts of force and fairness, if one is to believe the writings, that is. And then the grandiose language and epic deeds are typical for accounts from Symbaroum's early days, where numerous local kings fought each other in endless battles. This period is assumed to have taken place between 2,000 and 1,500 years ago, long before Symbar was built and a more cohesive empire was founded. In short, much of the statements are probably baseless boasting, the rest exaggerations. Next. The spider goddess Oroke is still worshipped among several barbarian tribes and is in some aspects similar to the old Ambrian deity, the Executioner. Next, Toad Drot is an unknown, likely amphibian monster, possibly related to the skeleton exhibited in the Toad Square in Thistlehold. And finally, the divine nectar, mentioned in a text recurs in many myths of both Ambrian and barbarian origin. Most likely it does not refer to one and the same item, but it's a narrative simplification referring to different kinds of potent artifacts and elixirs.
And the final bit on the other one is a direct translation of what is apparently the central plaque directly over the top of the stone gateway you came through.
When the steadfast at the gate of the king signs a prayer for salvation and bends his knee in adoration, the illumined path is opened to tear-filled pleasure and joy. Ominous.
Well, they certainly had nothing good to say about Oroke.
They did not.
As you're having kind of the silence that lingered for a moment after Anton spoke there, you could all hear kind of the drumming of the hard rain echoing through the gateway as it hammers on the lintel of the stone door.
Go ahead.
Can I just quickly look at the more decayed body? And I just want to very roughly try and estimate how long it might have been dead, with the idea that perhaps it was one of Gorak's companions.
Without being an expert, like a medical expert in the same way that Steel or Anton are, you couldn't really say. Maybe it's a guess, but perhaps asking one of them would yield, a more precise answer.
Yeah.
I say that, but Steo did look at it. So would you have thought about that yourself? You can go ahead and make a roll if you want.
Dating the corpse?
Yeah.
I think I would, because I think I'd be testing to see it's kind of...
Go ahead and make the roll. Because I'm thinking in your head, if Askrai goes over to look at it, Steo can just be like, you would say that this person died 10 months to a year ago, so almost bang on the sacking of this tomb by Gorak and his accomplices.
So I don't think Steel's going to make that thing, but if Askrai's looking at it, I'll call out that it's probably about a year old.
I guess that makes it almost certainly one of Gorak's. Seems that whole party is a horrible end.
Oh, I forgot about him altogether.
Seems that no one that enters this tomb has met a happy fate.
I'm sorry, I'm just amused at the notion that Steo would have forgotten Gorak after what the abomination that burst forth from Gorak did to Steo in that kind of lost temple underneath Thistlehold. Because it was Steo who he almost one-shot, right?
I think he almost one-shot most of us, but Steo probably is more concerned about the abomination rather than the
man
of tomb robbers.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to just verify that the walls of this tomb, they're bare, they're not decorated with...
Absolutely just bare stone. Very functional.
To the left, then, is it?
I think we've gained all the information we can from here, but proceed with caution. From armor exploding to the writings on the walls, this is altogether unnatural.
Sure. As you're heading out, what again? Are we in a kind of similar order as to what we've described in the past? Because almost always you have like Ascarai and Ephanea going in front, and then Steo holding the rear. So I think we can just kind of assume that's the general party composition.
I think I would be in the lead for this one because it's not a stealthy
Yeah.
as such. So
black gift held aloft, ready.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. In that case, let's have this from the two at the back of the party, because let's say Erfons is in the middle. It seems appropriate. Antom and Steo, do you want to give me a vigilant roll, please?
Oh.
I make it.
Oh, thankful.
Nice.
Sorry, I was checking stuff. Did Chris hold up a thing to the screen? Okay. Anton, on your way out of this chamber, you just catch as you're kind of taking a last kind of step round it to look as you scratch your map and your notes, and as you walk away from that passageway on the right hand side, you're not sure if you really feel it and hear it or it's just your imagination, but you get the slightest hint of a breeze coming from it and just the faintest scraping sound. Like a distant craftsman.
I'm just going to grab Steo and just like kind of fling his shoulder around to sort of point him in the direction of where that sound's coming from, and I'm just going to put my finger to my lips as well.
Nothing.
You heard that, right? The scraping from the other passage?
That's not the path we're taking today. We know.
Oh, I know it's not the path we're taking today. I just want to make sure that we've got a way out of here when we want to leave.
One problem at a time.
So you walk down this left-hand path, which very shortly leads to a set of stairs leading downwards, only a short way, and then it turns sharply to the right, and you carry on forward until you open up into another relatively large chamber, and I'll just find a bit of an estimate of the size. That would be 12 meters by 12 meters. The only other exit from this chamber, other than the one you've come in, the way from the south, is directly ahead of you in the north wall, and is it's kind of a passageway that reaches all the way up from the floor of the chamber to the roof, a kind of giant slash through the stone of this tomb. But the entire face of this passageway is covered by a tightly barred, rather sturdy-looking copper and bronze gate, again covered in verdigris, which I saw some debate in the chat. I do mean verdigris, not ambergris. Verdigris is like the green rust effect you get on copper and bronze, actually. And other than this large ornate barred bronze gate, there are a few interesting things about this room. So first off, along one wall are two huge mosaic motifs that have been kind of carved into the stone of the wall, and at some point in the past have been kind of painted with quite bright, vivid colors now that are, some is still in place, some are flaked off entirely, and others are just kind of like fragmenting. And even as you walk into the chamber, like, you know, you're not causing the chamber to rattle or anything, but even the slightest amount of air movement that you're causing causes a few flakes to drift off and reach the floor of the chamber. The other things of note in the chamber are quite a large number of human remains that are scattered over the floor, heavily decayed and in a great many parts. That is mostly to the north of the chamber.
Near the gate door.
Now that you think of it, yes.
Excellent. It's just what I like in my entrance ways. Okay.
Are they more decayed than the previous bodies? Or
They look to be exactly as decayed as the older body in the previous chamber.
There's no evidence of any Ordo Magica recent dead friends.
No, not by the look of it.
There's the gate. So,
Okay, but obviously proceed with caution. There are a lot of corpse parts in this room, and I do not wish that we become one ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Wise. Were they trying to open the gate? Can you see any tools?
Can we see any tools?
Are we examining these bodies a bit more closely?
Yeah, with ginger and with light foot and trepidation.
Mm-hmm. So the body parts are in, as I say, in quite a few pieces. Scattered among them are a couple of short swords, a dagger. There's even kind of a pouch of shillings spilled out onto the floor. And as let's say Ephanea moves forward, your foot kind of catches a piece of paper on the floor. You reach down and pick it up, and it is a voucher for 2 free tankards of beer at the Salons of Symbaroum.
what a find.
I will pocket that. I like beer.
I
I
told
don't
you,
hate talons.
everything in this forest is cursed. Sending us to that tip.
So, is it safe to assume that the 2 individuals with Medicus are going to take a bit of a closer look at these bodies?
Yeah, I think so.
Go ahead and make your vigilant tests.
I fail this time.
And while you're doing that, did you fail as well, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. While you're looking at the bodies and trying to determine exactly how this happens to bodies, and failing, you know what? Let's have a vigilant test at -5 from Ascarai and Ephanea. Because you guys are, I guess you guys are kind of like stood around and kind of looking at the general area.
Yeah, I think I'd be very closely examining like the walls and the floor, and maybe the ceiling.
Sure.
At -5.
No.
I need a 10. I got a 12.
Okay. None of you can come to any firm conclusion. I'm not saying you're idiots, but none of you can come to any firm conclusion to how these horribly diced human remains happen to be in front of this large, ominous bronze gateway. And on that note, well, actually, Ascarai, when you said you were examining the walls, would that include the mosaics?
Yes. I'm thinking there might be some kind of trap, maybe somewhere in this room that has done this. But I would. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Since you're looking at that, let's. I know we're approaching end time, but I feel like the mosaic is a bit nicer of an ending than just looking at some horrifying body parts. So, why don't you give me a vigilant roll there, please, Ascarai?
Okay.
The GM has been kind to us today. He has noticed our failures and given us another opportunity.
I need a 15. I got a 20.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't look at the mosaics. It just means that the mosaic on the right is just shapes that don't really seem to mean much to you. And next session, everyone else, if they look at the mosaics, they'll get a chance to try and recognize it as well. But the other mosaic, you don't need to make a roll to recognize it. I will simply describe it to you. The mosaic on the left wall, kind of the left wall of the chamber, describes a macabre scene shown against a blood-red background. A shape in golden armor has impaled another being on a spear and hoisted it into the air, the latter dressed in black robes and carrying a black crown. To the right of the two is something resembling a freshwater well, and it seems like the golden one is about to heave his enemy therein. Further to the right, the artist has depicted a monstrous toad-like creature, as if it was rushing towards the humanoid beings. And you know what? That seems like a somewhat ominous place to leave us for the evening, there in the Tomb of Dying Dreams. Thank you for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them into the chat, and John will fling them up here for us to answer for you. Thanks to John for his hard work on this. Thanks to the players who've been great as always. And I'll just do the promo before we do the comments FAQ bit. So we've got a bunch of links down below. We've got social media, which is usually but not always Telling Tales RP. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, all those places. We have a YouTube where all our VODs are stored. Go there if you want to watch Symbaroum right back from the beginning, if you want to watch Vampire from the beginning. We've got a cool kind of podcasty roundtable discussion thing where we did over the festive period about online, offline role-playing stuff. That's fun. There's also a link to our Patreon. If you love us so much you want to support us, we would be grateful, of course. I think that's it. We run weekly. Tuesdays is Vampire, 8 o'clock GMT here on Twitch. Symbaroum is Wednesday, 8 o'clock here on Twitch. We've got another series coming up in the next few weeks probably, but I don't want to fully confirm it yet. Things are slightly up in the air. We're also starting monthly one-off sessions, kind of one-shot stories. They're going to be on, or they're aiming to be on the first Saturday of every month, and our first one is on February the 6th. That's Saturday, February the 6th. We're not sure what time yet, so keep an eye out on our social media if you want to know about that. And it's going to be Alien, which is also a game from Free League, and is obviously based on the Alien franchise. And it'll be very good, and scary, and spooky, and spacey, and all sorts of stuff like that. We had a follow this evening. I mean, facehuggers look a bit like spiders, so kind of. We had a follow near the beginning from Dying Knight. Thank you very much. And yeah, any comments or questions to direct our way? What's the average lifespan of an adventure of Symbaroum? Depends on the GM's mood.
I think it's supposed to be more brutal than it's been so far. We should have had at least one death by now.
No, I don't think so. Like I've been running it pretty. I haven't been saving you guys. Like,
in fairness, FNA has been saving our guys.
FNA is an absolute slice and dicer, and that has really helped you. But like, I think I think they've done a fairly good job of ramping up the danger, and also you've played quite smart. Like, you haven't engaged, I think you've played quite smart in general. But the thing to remember is that in Symbaroum, all it takes is, one or two bad hits and you're down, and then you might die. So I wouldn't say I haven't been holding off, but neither have I been keeping you safe. You've just so far been either good or lucky enough to escape that situation.
I think when we've really needed them, we've had the clutch dice rolls to just not quite die. I feel like against the very first Abomination, FNA rolled like a 1 when she needed about a 1 or a 2.
FNA got horribly torn up in that first encounter as well. Steo got horribly torn up in the encounter at the end of Mark of the Beast with the creature that was Gorak. But you've been all right. Mike's going to head off now. Mike just needs to jump off because he's special. So we'll wave goodbye to Mike, and we'll see him next week. Thank you, Mike. Anything else from the chat, folks? Does the spider speak in emojis? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh God, that's bad.
Sure, why not? I don't know what the emoji for vile water is, but
I'll find one. Just kind of can I assume we're going to get at least 1 XP from this thing?
You will. Oh yeah, you're up to 30, are you? Did you say?
Yeah. Well, 20 unspent.
20 unspent. Yeah.
And I would like
I
to.
think. Yeah, I'm just trying to work out if it's more than 1. No, I think it's 1 because I don't think you've had any really challenging scenes in this one. So yeah, 1, which will bring you indeed up to 20.
To the golden number. And you have no objections to me cashing that in for polearm intermediates?
No, not really. No, I don't like. I'm not holding too hard and fast to the whole. You need training time and stuff like that. I tend to like it in offline games, but given how focused these streaming ones are, you'd barely have the time to do it.
Yeah,
so I'm perfectly fine doing that.
For Steo, it's more like coming to grips with skills long past rather than training myself to new competence.
Yeah, kind of walking along going, Fonz doesn't realize I used to be so kind of being a bit. I used to drill with my weapon, and then remembering that you used to drill with weapon. Maybe you should start doing that again. So why don't you tell us what Polearm Mastery Level 2 does?
So we have a long weapon allows you a.
Sorry.
I was just saying, can I quickly interject for a second, just purely to say, can I please shoot off because my back is really hurting.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Thank you, Al.
All right, thanks, guys.
We'll see you later.
So in previous history, my long weapon gives me a free attack of opportunity to anyone entering into its range in certain specific and limited circumstances.
Yeah, but anyone engaging you primarily, I think is the idea.
But once we move into level 2, it's basically all of the situations where we were kind of ruling that no, that's not very fair to be able to do that. It's now unlimited with regards to how many people it can engage with, and unlimited how many times per turn it can happen, and unlimited with regards to the situations it can occur in.
Yeah, so it's basically like if 3 people engage you, you get a shot at each of them rather than just the first one to engage with you.
Precisely.
Yeah,
pretty
strong. Pretty strong stuff. How many XP you sat on there, Sam?
I think I'm also on. I wasn't sure if I was previously on 19 or 20 unspent. So I'm gonna err on the side of having less XP. Don't want to get any unfair XP advantages. So I think I'm on.
Well, surely, because neither you or Chris have missed a session, right? So you should have the same amount.
Yeah.
So and Chris spent 1 for a reroll, and you didn't. So I'd say you're on at least. I think it's possible that Chris is on 29 and you're on, but that you're one off each other to the favor of you. But at this point, 1 XP is 1 XP. It seems to make sense that you two would have matching XP.
Yeah.
Well, that Chris should have 1 lower, but
yeah.
Well,
in it, I've got enough to spend on basically anything I want. Like any one thing that I want, because even the adept things are only 20. Yeah. I'm thinking about taking Beast Law because it seems appropriate and good.
Yeah.
I would like to take that, but my only hesitation is like from the role play aspect, like where have I gained this sudden Beast Law knowledge from? But
you could maybe say like, well, you've encountered meerkats and a giant spider, and I don't know.
It's true. Definitely have some more beast law than I did when we started this campaign. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, unless there's no comments or questions, we'll leave it there for the evening. Thanks again to everyone, viewers, John as the stream manager, the players, wonderful, all wonderful people. And we'll hopefully see you next week. Tuesday for Vampire, Wednesday for Symbaroum. Catch you later, folks. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.